Maybe we can start with a short introduction of everybody. Yeah, let's start with you.
Good evening, guys. My name is Bongile Matebula. I'm from South Africa.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bonabella Masit. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Jeremy.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Motsapi from South Africa. I go by the name of Tommy T.
Sanbonani, Kuyemore, Absheni. My name is Telo Paba, but preferably you can call me Malome, which means uncle. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Salo Ruben Mudiha from South Africa.
So let's start with thank you for this beautiful, impressive show. It's such an intense performance for you, I would say. How do you feel after performing a show like this? You must be tired, of course.
Yes, tired, of course. First of all, we are very excited to be here, but every stage, every audience is something new. So we feel excited. Yeah, I can say we feel excited and inspired at the same time by how the audience responded. Thank you.
So you have been here before 2 years ago. You have been here at Noorderzon.
Yes.
How is it to be back?
Uh, it feels like home, does it? Yes. Even though it's not the same theater, but still it's here, Gronigen. It feels like home because we are familiar with, I can say, the culture of the people here, the environment, on how people interact, the arts. Even though we didn't stay long, but there's a certain sense of relation. We feel that we belong in a sense to our artistically. That's how I feel. That's how we feel. I think.
How is this for the rest? I want to hear someone else.
Yes, please.
It's nice to be back. We had a really warm reception last time we were here with a very different work. So I was a bit curious to see those who might have seen the previous work, how they would react to this one. And yeah, I'm happy that folks seem to get something out of it. So it's a good thing to be back here with them.
Of course, we'll talk about the show, of course, but maybe it's good for a lot of people who don't know too much about Kansula dance and about your company. Let's start with talking a little bit about that. Can you tell us something more about Kansula as a dance and where it originated?
Okay. Can you rephrase the question, please? Can you rephrase the question? Just that.
Can you tell a little bit more about the origin of Kansula as a dance? Because it started out in the 50s or
Yes,
the 60s. Can you tell a little bit more about that?
Okay. As you said, we trace the historical background of Isipanzula. We trace it in the 1950s because in the 1950s it was a very vibrant time of those times, and there was this dance called Tsaba Tsaba and Pata Pata, which means touch touch. Of that was most popularized by Miriam Makeba, and they were because that time it was mostly about the jive than the dance form, and the jive of the tipsy jive, the taba taba jive, the monkey jive of those times.
What do you mean by jive?
Jive is more on an informal way, on an upbeat, on a quick step way,
Yeah.
Dance is more formal, it's more on a lean more on that academic way, if you understand what I'm trying to say. So hence why I'm saying jive, because mostly jive it was associated with the streets, with the urban areas or the townships, before it went to the academic institutions, whereby it can be developed and become what they call dance today. So Isipantsola or Pantsola come from the 50s in those dances because those dances are the ones who inspired the progression. So Isipantsola, it's a progression of the dances of the 50s, which of course the black people who migrated from the villages or rural areas who migrated to the urban areas, which is Johannesburg, whereby people they were discovering gold in Johannesburg. They came with their indigenous dance forms. So as they modernize and modify their dance forms and getting inspired and influenced by this jive style that came up in the 50s, that's when Isipantula became a progression of those times of the 50s, of those dances. Yes. So obviously it's the dance form. The dance form goes along with the music, and the music which dominated that time, it was Mpakanga. It's a mixture of jazz, traditional music, and disco. You know, they call it Mpakanga. You know, and then as it grew and it became modified, then to the 60s. In the 60s, it continued to with a little bit of tap because tap was starting to dominate the scene from the 50s to the 60s. And then in the 70s, that's when a prominent culture called Isipantula emerged, you know, up until in the 80s, whereby it becomes a golden age of Pantsola jive before it becomes a dance. So the dance form comes later in the 90s, whereby now we have a freedom in South Africa. We start to explore other dance movement. We start to work with different institutions. We start to attend certain workshops or exchange ideas with other choreographers or dancers and so forth. That's when it
from the
comes.
start, it really was a dance from the streets.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, up until today, you see it in theater because in the olden days, it didn't have such a platform.
You're already talking about the development through time of the dance. It also developed into a form of like a social commentary of the Black Africans.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. In what way?
It's a social commentary because if you remember, as Black people, we were stripped of our identity and status. So we were treated like next to nothing because of the apartheid regime or the oppressive system of those times. Because we were not allowed to vote. We were always forced to carry our passes or ID books back in the days, and we were arrested if we carried the book. So each and every person in the township, especially black people, and those, even though you are not a black person, and those who supported black people and fighting against the system had to use creative ways of saying, how do we resist? How do we fight a system of raising the voices of these people who are the majority who are oppressed? And then the dance form of Isipantsola and the music and poetry and art and other forms of creative means were part of resistance. And Isipantsola, as it grows, it became part of the resistance throughout that journey and its development.
I read someone saying Pansula is not only dance,
Yes.
it's also about stress relief. Is that true?
Yes, you can put it like that because another thing is that you can never define Isipantula in one way. As much as you can never dance Isipantula in one way. It goes by individual and individual, group by group, township by township, even country by country. Because if you are watching us as we are dancing,